In today's video, we're going to talk about debt collection letters. We're going to talk about how debt collection letters must be created and formatted to be compliant with the CFPB and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the rules and regulations that debt collectors must follow when sending a debt collection letter from a debt that they've either purchased or from a debt that they are hired to collect for their client. So one of the things that I've noticed, and just in case this is the first time watching one of my videos, my name is Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of the creditrepairshop.com. What I do, my mission, my daily mission, is to help people like you who are watching my videos fight back against third-party debt collectors and creditors to a certain extent when it comes to doing settlements or potentially expressing your hardship if you have financial hardships that you are just not able to pay your debt. So, but for the purposes of this video, I want to talk about, number one, what you need to look for when getting a debt collection letter from a third-party debt collector. There are rules and regulations that they must abide by. There are also rules and regulations that they must abide by when they are also calling you. And the reason why it's very important for you to pay attention to this video, you really need to pay attention to it, is because this is important information and it can help avoid a lot of negative outcomes that can happen from you just not taking these letters serious. There are a lot of videos that are on YouTube that tell you not to pay attention to these letters, not to respond to them, and then all of a sudden you get a letter that they have upgraded your case or your debt collection to a case in the court. So now you're being sued. And also there are repercussions from you not responding to the debt collection letter. And I'm going to show you proof of that within the debt collection letter from the debt collector. When you do not respond to the debt collection letter, you are also stating that the debt is yours. I know that that sounds crazy. I know that that sounds counterintuitive, but it is true. If you do not respond to the debt collection letter, you are actually giving them permission to put the information on your credit reports. So what we want to do is we want to avoid the pain and the frustrations of what can happen if you don't respond to the debt collection letter. And we also want to know and educate you on what you need to watch out for and what you need to do when you're responding back to a debt collector. So first, what I want to do is I want to review a real debt collection letter, and then I'm going to tell you some things that you need to be aware of when dealing with debt collection letters, when you receive one, and also when you need to respond to one. Okay, with that being said, let's look at this debt collection letter. One of the things that I've paid attention to, and if you've been watching my videos, I've talked about this a lot. Debt collectors are not allowed to share your information with unauthorized third parties. Debt collectors are not allowed to share your information with unauthorized third parties. So one of the things that you can pay attention to, and you can do a lookup search on their address. Look at this return service requested address so you can see if that's a third party address. You can go to Google, you can go to the post office, and I think that you would be able to look that up. The way that we do it is we just go to Google, simply type that in. If it comes up as a third-party mailing service, that would be a violation of the FDCPA, sharing your information with an unauthorized third party. And you would simply need to write a letter to, for this case, Credit Control LLC, debt collection company, and let them know that they're in violation and that you have proof that they're in violation. And you can print out the company that sent out the information, and then you can request that Credit Control send you some type of documentation showing that you authorized their information to be shared. Now, the next thing that you might be thinking is, well, you never gave your information to Credit Control to be able to have your private information. I know what you're already thinking about. And that is true. And that's why when we do our response letter, we ask for that information in the debt validation letter, but we'll get to that later. I'm going to give you some information on that. So we see here that credit control has this address listed right here. And then they have their P.O. box potentially listed here, but let me tell you that there's already some problems. So you have an Earth City, Missouri address here, but you have a Livonia, Michigan address. So we already see that there's some potential problems already with this letter, and they're not used to having people challenge them on this type of stuff. And that's what my specialty is to challenge them on this type of stuff. The next thing, oops, I made a mistake there. The next thing is we're going to look at, it says Credit Control LLC is a debt collector. We are trying to collect the debt, and they identify who the original creditor was. They have to put this information on there because this is what's considered a mini Miranda warning. Now, in previous videos that I had, I talked about that they have to tell you that that they have to give you the mini Miranda warning, and also tell you that if you have a right to consult with an attorney. I'm going to update that portion with this statement. If they're going to sue you, they have to tell you that you can get an attorney and that you have a right not to say anything. But when they're doing a straight up debt collection letter, they just have to give you the mini Miranda warning that this is an attempt to collect the debt, and that they'll use any information that you tell them in the, and they will use any of that information to help them collect on the debt. They have to give you all of the information that's on the debt. So moving forward here, and also I want to, this came to my mind real quick. All of these debt collection letters, their format has to be uploaded in the CFPB website. It has to be approved. So just so you know, this letter has already been approved by the CFPB on the way that they send this letter out. So let's go over some of the things that are in here. Now, you've maybe received a debt collection letter that looked a little bit different, but they're basically going to have the same information in them because it's required. So first, they're going to tell you about the information and how much the debt is owed and the original creditor, and they're going to give you the last 4 digits of the account number. They're going to have the amount, and then they're going to say how you can dispute the debt. It's going to give you a time frame. From the debt collection letters that a lot of people have received, this here is, kind of frustrates them because it can have a date on here that it, way after this. When you look at the time frame that they give you to dispute it by, some of the times people didn't receive the letter due to a change of address, forwarding, whatever, a delayed mail. To give them the appropriate amount of time to dispute it. So what I tell people to do is to let them know that information when you do the dispute, because this is what will happen, and you've probably had this happen before. If they get the information after that date, they can legally disregard it according to the CFPB and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, because they stated on there that you have to call or write before a certain period of time, or they could just disregard it and they can move forward. Now, some of them allow you to do it electronically, where they'll have email, and you can use that as proof. I tell people to do it by mail, because when you do it by mail, there are certain things that you can prove to them that they did receive it when you send it certified mail. If you send it regular mail, they can have firewalls that are up because they're afraid of people hacking them, because they are debt collectors. And people could have, a vendetta against them. And also, it could go to junk mail, depending on your email. And if you happen to send them that correspondence by email, it kind of opens up the door for them to be able to look you up by social media and any other types of platforms that you're using that email address on. It just kind of opens up the door for that. So I do not tell my clients to respond, or people that are watching me on YouTube, I do not think that you should respond by using email. The next thing is, it says right here, CFPB debt collection. It tells you what you can go and look at your rights about how debt collectors can write to you and the rules and regulations that they have to abide by for the debt. Something else that you need to watch out for is that they have to keep all of the fonts the same size. If they don't keep the fonts the same size, they can get into trouble, because that could lead into what I'm going to talk about in a minute, with going into a full giving you all of the rules and regulations on debt collection letters themselves. So you can see here they're trying to tell you on stuff that you can check here on I want to dispute the debt, and you can say that the debt is not yours, the amount is wrong. It says here other, and you can put an attachment attached to it, or you can just go ahead and pay the debt, and they have an address that they use for collecting on the debt. So let's do a quick review before I get into what they are required to have by the book. So it'll be what debt collectors are required to have in their letter by the book. Because what I've seen is that they don't all have all of the information, but the letters that they do send out are approved by the CFPB. So they can lean on that. They can lean on that, hey, this debt collection letter was approved by the CFPB. So if we're missing something, you can't blame it on us. You have to blame it on the CFPB. But I have seen that if you challenge it, that the debt collection company will give in, because they don't want to have any issues, because the CFPB does not back them up, even though they did approve the letter. So again, we want to look at these addresses. We want to see if this was sent out by a third party mail-in service, because that is a violation of the CFPB and the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act by sharing your private information with an unauthorized third party. We're looking at the addresses here, and one of the red flags is that they're in Missouri and they have Michigan for this mail-in, for where they had the information mailed out from. Not to say that credit control doesn't have a service there. If they don't have a service there and it is a third-party mail-in service, I'm pretty sure Credit Control LLC is just of the mindset of you don't know that they're not allowed to do it. The next thing is that they have a date here, and I think I missed that. This is a date that they would have listed here, and then they would have a date that you need to respond by if you're planning on disputing it. If you don't respond to that dispute, they're going to be able to put that information, this whole $17,000 with Credit Control LLC, on your credit reports, and it's going to drop your scores majorly with this amount of debt. It's going to be like you add in an account and have a collection account on there for $17,000. They have to identify who the original creditor is or was, and the last four digits, so you can have some sort of idea of who it was and where it came from. The next thing is that they got to tell you exactly what you can do, the ways that you can dispute it. They have to give you the CFPB information, payment information, and with this one here, this is a pretty light one that they put together here. They have to put they got check boxes on here, but most of the debt collection letters will just notify you on what you allowed on, if you want to dispute it, any part, whatever. They're going to put that on here. All of the font sizes must remain the same. All right, so let's get right into what you need to watch out for with debt collection, or rather the requirements that debt collectors must have inside of their debt collection letters. These are debt collectors who have purchased a debt, or debt collectors who are collecting debt for other companies, their clients. So the first thing is that debt collectors must tell you the amount of the debt. They must clearly state the amount of the debt. They must clearly state the name of the creditor. They must clearly state that you have a right to dispute the debt. They must clearly state that you have a time frame, 30 days. Some of the debt collectors give you a little bit longer, like in the example letter that I just showed you, to dispute the debt. The next section, which showed in the sample, was the mini Miranda warning. So I want to make a clarification again from a video that I made before. I didn't clarify it the right way. That is my fault. they have to give you a mini Miranda warning. And in a debt collection letter, the basic mini Miranda warning that they have to put in that letter, or if they call you and they have not moved forward to sue you, is that they just have to state that they're indicating that this is a communication from a debt collector, and that for any information obtained will be used for that purpose to collect on the debt. Now, if they're suing you, they're taking you to court and they do talk to you and you've already got the summons and you call them, they are required to give you the mini Miranda warning again, but they also have to state that you do have a right to consult with an attorney. And if you cannot afford to pay for an attorney, that they have to lead you to a source, which is going to be some type of legal aid that each county or city would have in place to help you. Not to say that you're going to get much help from them, but they have to give you that. They have to tell you that. Now, here are some of the consumer rights that you need to be aware of. Is that you have a right to dispute any or all or a part of the debt. You can say that this is not my debt, or that's not the amount that I recall, or the whole amount. Maybe you did have an account with them, but that amount you don't owe any on that. And that has been the case. Like if you maybe file bankruptcy, or you had paid had an agreement paid with the original creditor. Next thing is that they have to have proof of debt. Now, this is when you dispute the debt. This is all getting into when you start to dispute the debt, that you could tell them that you want to have them cease any phone communication, that you only want to have them write to you. You want to have them give you all of the information pertaining to that debt. But don't worry, I'm going to give you a letter that will have all of the questions in there. The next thing is that you want to have complete information about the original creditor and as much information about the account number. They will usually only have the last 4 digits of the original creditor's account number. They have to be clear. Nothing can be inconspicuous. It can't be trying to bait and switch you, make you think of something else and not be pertaining to the debt. They have to be 100% clear. No trying to confuse you with anything, and that leads into no false or misleading representations about the debt, about the legal status, about the amount, about the character. And I talk about the character, like they can't put any information in there trying to say, hey, why don't you pay your debts and all of this type of stuff. They cannot do that. They cannot say that they're suing you if they're not suing you. They cannot imply that the debt collector is an attorney if the person that's you're talking on the phone with is not an attorney. Now, also, see, this is like a validation of what I've told you. Debt collection attorneys do not review the documentation of that debt collector. They do not review debt collection letters that are sent out. They just do not do it. So they cannot say that this letter is from an attorney unless it is actually from an attorney. They are not allowed to say that. You might be saying, Steve, I've seen letters from debt collection attorneys that had their information on top. I'm telling you that debt collection attorney, it's only on there in name. They have not reviewed it, because when you send the letter back that I give you, you will see that it has not been reviewed by an attorney. The next thing is that they cannot threaten legal action if they have not taken legal action or intend to take legal action. I know that intend to take legal action is a gray area, but they have to take legal action if they threaten legal action. They cannot have harassing or abusive language in there, or when they're talking to you on the phone, use harassing or abusive or oppressive language, like, why don't you pay your debt? Or it is against your religion to have debts outstanding. Or they can't say, well, we're going to call your neighbors until we get in touch with you. Or you're going to call your job until we get in touch with you. They cannot do things like that. So be aware of that. They cannot use unfair practices. Some of them is saying that, or some examples would be, they're collecting an amount that is not expressly authorized by the agreement or permitted by law. So they can't say, hey, we're trying to collect on this amount, and they don't have documentation to back that up. They cannot collect on debts legally. They cannot say that you have a legal obligation on a debt that is past the statute of limitations to collect. They can contact you to try to see if you want to pay that debt, but they have to get put in that mini Miranda warning that this is a debt that is past. They'll say time barred and that you have no legal obligation to pay it. But what they'll say is this is a time barred debt, and some of them will say you have no legal obligation to pay it. Some of them will just say this is a time barred debt and that we're attempting to collect on this debt. When they say time barred debt, that means that this debt is past the legal statute of limitations to collect according to the laws in your state, and you have no legal obligation to pay it. That's what it actually means, but they're going to try to get you to collect on that debt. All right. So if you have debt collectors sending you letters early in the game, I want you to go to the link that's below this video. I have a service where we can do the response for you if you don't want to take the time to do it. We also have some additional information that we put in there for the paid clients that want us to send it out. It is sent certified mail. It will usually do the job, or it will get the conversation rolling and let them know that you are serious about disputing that debt, because it's going to make them get all of the appropriate paperwork and information before they decide to try to move forward with that debt. Or you can get my free one, and I just ask for a donation on those. The link is below this video. I give you a statute of limitations letter and a debt cease and desist collection activities letter, which will attack what we just talked about with getting an attorney's review also. And I give you a debt validation letter for the back and forth. Some of the times they try to disregard it, or they try to send you a few statements. They are required to give you 12 to 18 months of statements. That's according to the new update with the CFPB. So they can't just give you a couple of statements. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch video What Makes Us Different so you can see my 8-point validation process, my 2-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website the number 3 scores to grab the number 3 scores.com to grab your TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian credit reports in all 3 scores. And it'll have all of the furniture information on there. That is very important if you're going to fight back against debt collectors, and if you're going to also try to work on getting your credit repaired. And again, the debt collection letters, the link is below this video. Thank you for your time. Please subscribe to the channel, post your questions and comments. This is Stephen A. Williams, President and founder of thecreditrepairshop.com.